Dhanyawad, Saqib. We've had some good points that have come across, that have given the broader picture of what we're here to understand. I'll just give some key perspectives which I believe we should be discussing. One is that Palestine is the central geopolitical issue of our times. फिलिस्तीन की जो आज़ादी की संघर्ष है वो हमारी युग का केंद्रीय राजनीतिक सवाल है. Palestine is the central geopolitical issue of our age, of the times that we live in, and this applies to all of humanity across all the nations of the world. The second issue is that we, until maybe 10 years ago, we used to refer to this as the age of imperialism, especially in the post 9/11 world. But this is the age of imperialism and Zionism. We cannot now differentiate between the two. They are working in tandem. There are certain breaks that are coming, but at the same time, this is the age of imperialism and Zionism, and without defining, analyzing what Zionism is all about, we cannot arrive at the right answers. The third part is that the changing character of capitalism, from monopoly capitalism, we have now gone into the phase of globally integrated monopoly capitalism, far more vicious, far more dangerous, far more violent than the age of monopoly capitalism that we have seen earlier, which defined the imperial age. And in this context, in 1917, there were two important dates in our vis-a-vis the world, rather. One was November 2 and the other is November 7. We discussed November 7 and we know that as the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917. But on the 2nd of November 1917, what was passed was the Balfour Declaration. And it is a remarkable little document, a one-page letter that has changed the history of this world. And what was the Balfour Declaration? After the World War ended, after 1917, after the World War ended, the British government gave the land of Palestine to the Rothschild banking family. The letter said that Her Majesty's government gives the land of Palestine to the Rothschild banking family, which means that the Rothschild banking family that funded the British war effort during World War I was basically given Palestine as part of the larger deal that happened. So how did it get to Balfour? In the 20th century, yes, there were pogroms against the Jews in Eastern Europe, where there was a lot of movement of the Jews coming into London and to Paris. There were riots in the streets of London in 1905, where they said that we do not want so many Jews to come to our countries. So the Zionists gave a solution. And this solution, in which we understand one part of Zionism, that Jews and Christians cannot live together. You give us our own homeland and we will take all the Jews from Europe to the promised land. That could have been Uruguay, it could have been Palestine. So the Zionists also believed in that concept that Jews are basically a separate people. Anti-Semitism is an ideology which pervades Europe and we have to move out. And in that context, you see that after World War I comes on the Balfour Declaration and the entire imperial game plan. The other point is to clearly understand what the Israeli agenda is all about, and this is especially for the जो हमारे नौजवान कार्यकर्ता हैं. क्योंकि हम लोग जब जनता में जाते हैं, when we go home to people to talk about the Israeli issue, इजराइल बहुत अच्छा देश है, आतंकवाद के खिलाफ लड़ रहा है, भारत को मदद कर रहा है, तो इजराइल का एजेंडा क्या है पैलेस्टाइन को लेकर? क्योंकि उनका बोलना है कि ये जो फिलिस्तीनी मुसलमान अरब है वही सॉल्यूशन के लिए तैयार नहीं है, इजराइल तो एक पीसफुल सॉल्यूशन चाहता है. So the agenda of Israel is very clear. It is committed to the total occupation of all of historic Palestine. How does it do that? It does it through the total ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian population. And that is what Gaza was all about. That is what the settlements are all about in the West Bank. It conducts massive warlike war operations in which genocide is implicit through various ways, through control of water resources, through the degradation and destruction of the farming communities. It does it in every way possible. The other paradigm that it uses is the post 9/11 paradigm of the global war on terror, that every form of resistance will be considered as an act of terror, including now throwing of stones. If a Palestinian throws a stone, you get 20 years of jail. But if you burn a Palestinian child, you're out within 6 months. Okay. So the point being that, and it's so interesting that there's been a major Zionist ideologue who actually justified the act of Goliath against David. That David was throwing stones, so it was okay for Goliath to do it because they could justify their 20-year, this thing for sending people for throwing stones. So the global war on terror is is part of the larger strategy of the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians. And in our context, the global war on terror is now a paradigm for the communal politics in our country. Part of that global war on terror is the promotion of Islamophobia in a very, very systematic manner, which they have done in the last 2 decades. And part of that strategy again is to control the centers of power in New York, Chicago, London, Paris, Berlin, where there are massively powerful Israeli, Jewish, Zionist lobbies that are functioning in the Western world. But cracks are appearing. Some very interesting cracks are appearing. And what is exactly happening? That the Palestinians stand at the front line of the global resistance. It is the Palestinian resistance and the resilience ever since World War I and after, and even earlier than that rather. But the Palestinians as a people have, against all odds, against the powers of our times, the Americans, the British, the French, the entire Western world that has gone after this little nation of Palestine, but they have withstood the worst horrors that one can imagine. So one is the Intifada, the uprising, for which you all have produced a lovely book out there. So the Intifada is not only about the Palestinians anymore, it is about a global Intifada. And that is why हमारा नारा है कि globalize the Intifada, globalize the resistance. Globalize the Intifada, globalize the resistance. प्रतिरोध का वैश्वीकरण हो रहा है और वो प्रतिरोध का वैश्वीकरण का हिस्सा हम लोग भी. The other interesting point is that the Palestinian global solidarity movement is the most global ever. Vietnam brought us to a phase of global mobilization, so did South Africa in the anti-apartheid struggle. But what we are witnessing now on the Palestinian global solidarity movement is far, far more advanced and pronounced, and there is barely any country across the world where the Palestinian solidarity movement is not part of their political discussion or protests on the streets or boycott movements or some incredible things happening through ordinary people and social movements. And that is why there is a growing pressure on governments to boycott Israel. And in the last couple of Gaza wars, especially the last one, now there is a major break within global Western Jewry especially the younger generation of Jews, that is feeling highly embarrassed and very, very angry of being identified with a Nazi fascist occupying state, namely Israel. And it is through this resistance that what happened basically in South Africa, where you had the collapse of the ideology of apartheid, which liberated South Africa. We are similarly witnessing the collapse of the ideology of Zionism. In the last 10 years, the amount of discussions on Zionism that has taken place in the world has been unparalleled. So Zionism is being exposed as an ideology of occupation, of racism, of ethnic cleansing, of in the most classical and heinous forms. And the Palestinians and the global solidarity movements are increasingly asking for what we refer to as the one-state solution, where Palestinians, Christians, Muslims and Jews all live together in one democratic Palestine. Now what I'll go to is explaining, or rather trying to discuss what Zionism was all about. Firstly, let us be clear, and the earlier speakers have cast light on that we clearly differentiate between Judaism as a religion and Zionism as a political ideology. And that we have to be very clear. And in our context, it's not only about Hindutva, it is also about radical Islam, symbolized today by ISIS and Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi and all kinds of horrors that are emerging from there. So we have to look upon these issues in a larger global context and be honest about when we are discussing these issues, because it's not really about India, it's about analyzing and understanding what's happening globally all around us. So in its basic essence, Zionism, the very simple definition is Zionism is the national movement of a minority of European Ashkenazi Jews to create a homeland in Palestine. I'm going to repeat that. Zionism is the national movement of a minority of European Ashkenazi Jews to create a homeland in Palestine. What it essentially means that this arose out of Europe. It was not a project of the original Asian or African Jews, but this came out from Europe. And Zionism arose in the age of the colonial and the imperial powers like Britain, Germany, Italy, the Dutch, the Portuguese, where the Jews living in Europe saw these colonies being made by their fellow white people, and they said that Zionism can just latch on to imperialism and carry on and build its own colonies. So the important point is that Zionism arose during the phase of imperialism and colonialism. I'll just run through this. The other point about so one is that Zionism is very deeply embedded with imperialism. The second part about Zionism is that it is part of the colonial settler project, and in which we need to understand its similarities with the South African colonial settler project. The third element is that Zionism is essentially built on religio-ethnic racism. It is an ethnic project and it is also a religious project. So it is a ethno-religious supremacist project. My religion is the most supreme. We Jews from the ethnic race, Jews are not in a single ethnicity, they are multi-ethnic. But in terms of religion, in terms of ethnicity, they believe in the supremacism. And again, it is not limited to Jews. We have the similar problem in terms of Manuwad. We have the similar problem in terms of Wahhabism and Salafism. We have the similar problem in terms of Christian Zionism, where each of them believes that they are the final truth and they are the ones who are supreme. So it's essentially a supremacist project. Now, there are 2-3 important people from the founders of Zionism. One was Jabotinsky, hardcore Zionist. Then the other is the founder of Israel, Theodor Herzl. These are people who have made some very clear statements, and even by just understanding what they spoke, we will understand the true character and the agenda of Zionism. I'll refer to Jabotinsky. Every reader of history has some idea of the early history of humanity and of the countries which have been settled. I suggest something very clear, that our project is, the Zionist project's agenda is not to rescue all the Jews. We are going to ensure that the select few can come to Palestine. Those who are educated will come, but the ones who are not need not come, and they can die in Nazi Europe and whatever fate awaits them. And with Herzl, Herzl makes some very interesting points, which is important for us to understand from the anti-imperialist context. Basically, Theodor Herzl said that Zionism needs to seek the patronage of the imperial powers to subdue the colonized people, a clear-cut alliance with the imperial powers. The second point, that in the choice for Palestine, which was decided at the first World Jewish Congress, the World Zionist Congress rather, which was held in Switzerland, there was a major move towards Uruguay, but it was the religious Zionists from Russia actually that pushed for Palestine. That they said if it is not a biblical Palestine, if it is not the biblical promised land, then the Zionist project does not make sense. What I'm trying to say is that the role of religion in establishing the Zionist project and in colonizing Palestine is an essential part of the project, and this needs to be understood. If we believe that this is only an economic project, then we are going to reduce this issue to in a classic context of reductionism, and it's not going to give us all the answers. And what Herzl is saying, what he's telling the West, to Britain, to the French, to the Americans, that we will form a part of a wall of defense for Europe in Asia, an outpost of civilization against the barbarians. Europe will have to guarantee our existence. And this comes from the apartheid wall that has been built between, not in between, but that has gone all the way into the West Bank. This apartheid wall is not merely a security fence, they call it a security fence, or a little garden kind of fence between, safeguarding the Israelis. The apartheid wall symbolizes the division between the advanced civilization of Europe and the hordes that are coming in from Asia to conquer the Israelis and then march into Europe. That is what this apartheid wall is actually symbolizing as far as the Zionists are concerned and the backers in the West. I'll just last couple of points now. That essentially, as I said, that in our times, Palestine is the central geopolitical crisis of our times. Much of what you see, not much of what you see, all that you see in the Middle East, the crisis that has emerged, the wars that have gone on, are centered around what Israel wants to do and settle the issue with the Palestinians. That is why the wars that are spreading to Lebanon, to Syria, to Yemen, to Iraq and all these countries. So one is the Israeli agenda, and the other is the collaborator regimes of the monarchies that are now aligned clearly with Israel. So what in essence this battle is between the colonizing project of the Israelis, the collaborative regimes that have aligned with the Israelis and the Americans, and on the other hand are the post-colonial or the anti-colonial forces in the region. This is what the Middle East crisis is all about. But again, it centers on Palestine. It centers on the larger Middle East project that the Israelis have in mind, and on the war of the entrance of the parliament. It's on the wall of the entrance of the parliament. It reads Israel from the Nile to the Euphrates. This is right there. And this again comes from the Old Testament. And it is in this context that over the last 150 years, how large parts of Christianity have been Zionized, but again in the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a fight back within the Christian communities, and they've actually started pushing back the ideology of Christian Zionism, again where Palestinian, Lebanese, Syrian and Iraqi Christians have played a large role in educating the Western Christian populations about the destruction that are wreaking on the original Christian populations of the East and what they've been doing in terms of destroying Christianity as a religion. So dosto, and that's what brings us to India. That in India we have now a growing awareness, not due to the, I don't even call it the mainstream media, I call it the corporate media. We are the mainstream, though our screen has been pushed aside. But we are there on the social media, we are there as part of the social movements, we are there as part of the political parties, and as intellectuals and as writers. And India has a strong, deeply rich tradition. And in terms of building, if it's a matter of finally people listening to Narendra Modi or Mahatma Gandhi, I know that people are going to go back to Mahatma Gandhi sooner or later, believing in those rich, deep traditions that our country has. And whenever it has come to the crunch, the Indian people have stood with Palestine, be it the governments that have actually moved, and it's not only on Modi, it has happened with the Congress as well. And on our part, and organizations and forums such as these, there's something that we need to come together and do immediately. Modi is going to go to Israel later this year or early next year, and I believe a major, massive campaign that is demanding that Modi does not go to Israel. Not only signature campaigns, conferences and huge rallies at Ramlila Maidan to Azad Maidan in Bombay, and I believe what we achieved at the time of the Gaza protests, where there was just a massive outbreak of protests all across the country when Gaza was being bombed. You all did it in Delhi, we did in Bombay, and lots of things were happening after that. So there's a lot of potential, more than potential, there is a need, and I believe that if we go to the people with the information and the ideological formulation that we have, I believe we can win this battle, because we are winning this battle in many countries of the world. We are winning this battle right within America and Europe, and India is far, far easier in that context for us to win. Thank you, sir.